If you missed yesterday's episode, I strongly recommend you go back and watch it because we've got a lot of new things happening in today's episode. We wrapped up action in the second stage of Série C and we won promotion to Série B. So I'm taking a quick look at the rules. By the way, welcome back to our Youth Academy Challenge with Ituano. I'm Mr. Cellophane. Thank you very much for being here. If you are enjoying this series, please hit that like button and feed the YouTube algorithm. Things a little bit more straightforward in Série B. No second stage. It is just 20 teams playing each other twice for a total of 38 matches. The top 4 teams win money and promotion to Serie A. The bottom 4 teams get relegated back to Serie D. And we are obviously going to be one of those teams, and there will be changes for next season. We've got a dozen or so players who are going to be out of contract at the end of this year, including Mateus Rocha, who is also already out of contract. Now, we have tendered him a new deal because we do need additional depth along our back line. He's only 5'11", which isn't great for a center back. He's got decent jumping reach, though, for his height. We can probably use him potentially as a defensive midfielder, because we are going to be saying goodbye to 32-year-old DM Daniel. As I mentioned in the last episode, he only made it 3 appearances in Série C for us. Only one of them starts, 2 of them off of the bench, including the last match that we played when it was already a foregone conclusion that we are going to win. He is on the decline. He is just no longer ready for prime time, and he will not be making the jump with us to Série B. We are, however, planning on keeping hold of some of our backup goalkeepers. 21-year-old João Pantera made 4 starts and a couple of additional sub-appearances. Just a single clean sheet, but not too bad considering we threw the 21-year-old into the fire, just as we did with 22-year-old Pedro Montavani. Now, he only made the 1 sub-appearance. He was going to take over as our starter when Andre was injured and Saulo was crapping the bed. However, he picked up an injury. Did keep a clean sheet in his limited minutes. He's 6'5". I'd like to see what he could potentially do in the future in a backup role, either with the club or at least out on loan as we continue to develop our young goalkeepers. Back to the players, though. We are setting for release, and one of them is 24-year-old midfielder Lipe. I tried so very hard the latter portion of last season to get him in the action and get him going, and he just did not step up to the task. He made 6 sub-appearances for the club after he spent a significant amount of time out on loan. 24 appearances at Azores, 3 goals, 5 assists, and the player of the match. He just could not do anything for us. Absolutely no goal contributions whatsoever, and I don't even really remember calling his name except for saying we're putting Lipe in place of Victor Reis. Same thing for 23-year-old Leo Souza. Just did not really feel like he was going to give us anything. So even though he was making the matchday squad quite often, he only made it off of the bench 3 total times between Série C and the Sao Paulo State Championship. I believe with him, it is time to move on. Gabriel Williams started the season as probably our backup, or at least 3rd choice right back, and he did not make a single appearance in Série C. JP just really stepped up. Now, JP, we'll get to him in a little bit. Gabriel Williams, again, I just never really had the confidence in the 21-year-old. 6 foot, great in the air. He just did not really show us anything. I do remain on the fence with 23-year-old right back Lucas Diaz. He started off the season as our starter in that position, but he continued to show he could not keep himself out of the referee's book. He only ended up making 4 total appearances in Série C, 2 of them starts. He was okay. We may decide to re-sign him and keep him around just to make sure we have the adequate depth in the position behind JP. Again, we'll get to that in just a little bit later on in this video. Lucas Diaz, though, as of the end of October, he's on his way out. 21-year-old winger Pedro Malheras just never really got an opportunity with the club, found himself behind just too many players on the depth chart, and he really hasn't developed a lot. He can dribble the ball, and that's where he's seen a slight uptick, but everything else has kind of stayed rather stagnant over the last couple of years. He has not even spent any time on loan. Just 3 appearances for us. Does have the 1 assist and a 7.65 average rating. Well, that ain't too shabby. Picked up Player of the Month. I don't even remember that, but that was a full season ago. Vinny Oliveira is on the fence about whether he stays or goes. Now, I do want him to stay. We did try to tender him a new contract. We were unable to come to terms in the beginning. We still have another 2 months with which to secure his signature. I think he has been a decent player for us. I think he could potentially play well. He did make 17 starts, an additional 3 sub appearances in Série C proper, 4 goals, 2 assists. He did slip down the pecking order just a little bit behind Nicholas, but then got an opportunity once Nicholas was shipped off by the board. Still angry about that, by the way. I really want Vinny Oliveira to be here for another season because otherwise we do lack some sufficient depth on that left wing. I'm not sure if Rodrigo Haruki is going to do it. And Lucas Stefanello, who we're going to talk about in just a second, he's not going to be here next year. The 23-year-old left winger slash striker has just fallen down the pecking order and kind of made himself invisible in this last season. He did make 8 appearances for the club, did absolutely nothing offensively, didn't really show anything technically, has made really no improvement. He's capped out at 5'5". I know he's a winger, but still a little bit on the shorter side compared to the rest of the squad. Already making $340 a week, would want a pay rise if we were to keep him around in Serie B. So I think the decision on him, well, it's a pretty easy one. And saving probably the best for last, 24-year-old Jay Carlos expected to be out of contract at the end of December, but we're not letting him go anywhere. He was already our top paid player. That will continue. We have come to terms on a new 3-year deal, $2,100 per week. But we've got plenty of money now, and it's not like we're going out and spending it on free agents. Tremendous finishing, great passing ability. He was able to stay healthy this year as well. Made 31 total competitive appearances, scored 11 goals, picked up 3 assists. Only 1 Player of the Match award, which is a little disappointing, and his average rating has taken a slight hit over the last couple of years, but I still believe that Jay Carlos is going to be our linchpin up front. Statistically speaking, we're kind of middle of the pack all over the place. That's fine, except in one place, the most assists in the league this year went to Nicholas with 10. Remember, he was sold right after we started competition in the second stage. He's at Portimonense. He made 2 total appearances, both of them off of the bench. I hope he's happy. Our next highest assister was Juan Richard with 6. Gabriel Rosera had 5. 4 each for Gil Ballara and Celio Pereira Silva. So we are going to need to find helpers from somewhere else. Jay Carlos and Gabriel Rosera, our 2 strikers, were our top 2 scorers. Victor Reese added 10 more. Now, I would like to get him into a new contract. You remember from earlier episodes, we did make a promise to play him as a number 10, and that is a role that we just do not play in our tactics. So I'm hoping to kind of walk back that promise, but because he just signed the new deal, he's not willing to talk about it right now. He had himself a very, very good season for us. I hope it continues in Serie B. That is, if we can stop him from being super duper grumpy. 17-year-old Marcus Antonio did see quite a bit of playing time this year. He's seeing market improvement across the board. 23 appearances in all competitions this year, 4 goals and 1 assist. He could stand to do a little bit better, but he is still learning, still growing, and obviously didn't get nearly as many opportunities as we thought he might because, Jay Carlos managed to keep himself healthy. He does have a nice healthy value, however, which makes me think that he is going to become quite the player. Speaking of which, Canella, 18 years old on our back line, was absolutely fantastic for us this year. Made 29 appearances, 27 of them starts in his first full season with the club. Did pick up 1 goal off of a corner. That's not really what he is there for. He is there to be a stalwart on our back line with Carlau, and he did an excellent job with it. Looking at a few more of our youngsters of note, we have 16-year-old Lucas, who may get some playing time in the first team this year as we're looking to shore up our depth at right back. It is probably our weakest position right now. He can play anywhere up that right side. I think we definitely need him at right back. However, his marking and tackling, he's a bit of a defensive liability. However, he did make 48 appearances with our reserve and U18 teams, picked up 4 goals and 8 assists. Not too bad. 1.7 tackles per 90. I'm not sure if that's a good metric or a bad one. Probably not as good as we would like. 17-year-old right winger Caio Enrique is developing quite nicely. He's also a striker, but we've got plenty of those at the moment. Did make 7 appearances for the big club and picked up an assist. He played kind of okay in a reserve role coming in off of the bench. He spent most of his time in our reserves and our U20s, and there he was excellent. 22 goals, 13 assists, and 4 times recognized as player of the match. He could be seeing himself a little bit more time in the coming season. Andre, far and away our top goalkeeper. Putting him in this year was a fantastic decision. Ended up making 24 appearances in the league, did pick up an injury which almost cost us qualification in the second stage, so we do have to keep our eye on that. Did concede 29 goals throughout the year. Most of that, though, was in the Sao Paulo State Championship. As far as his time in Série C, he was fantastic. 14 starts, only let up 15 goals, kept 6 clean sheets, which is much more than we could say about Saulo. Now, he does have an underperformance in his expected goals prevented per 90 minutes. We are going to work on that. He did face a lot of shots, having to make 5.5 saves on average per 90. He can always do a little bit better, but compared to the alternative in Saulo, I'll take Andre any day of the week. In fact, let's just rip the Band-Aid off on that conversation. Saulo was tragic. A 6.93 rating, which is shocking. Again, an underperformance on his XG prevented of over 1 goal per match. He was under fire a bit with 6 saves per 90, but he let up 2.5 goals per 90 minutes. 12 goals conceded in 7 appearances in Série C, 5 in 2 in the Sao Paulo State Championship. Remember, he played those last 2 matches when we're giving Andre a bit of a break. 1 clean sheet in 9 appearances overall. Just not good enough. He is still under contract for another year, but we're going to be looking to try to move him on sooner rather than later. Although, if we can sign him to a staff role, a non-playing role, he would far and away be the greatest goalkeeping coach that we could possibly find at this point in the save. 17-year-old Guilherme left back, we tried with him. We really did. He made 4 appearances in the Sao Paulo State Championship, 1 sub-appearance. Terrible average rating, just did not contribute at all. Looked out to sea. We're going to probably loan him out for the next year, see if he can get some seasoning, maybe the lower club, try to improve just that little bit. Because right now, it looks like Guilherme is going to be a bust. Paulo Alexander, 18-year-old midfielder, spent the entire season playing non-competitive matches for our U20 team. 4 goals, 1 assist. He wasn't bad. He wasn't great. We'll see what he can do in the coming year. He did have a loan spell last year at Independiente, played pretty well. We could not find a taker for this year. Hopefully next year we will. If Vinny Oliveira decides not to resign, it could leave the door open for 18-year-old Fabiano Jaeger. He spent all of 2027 at Ipiranga, had a decent loan spell there. He was in our youth system this year, did not really do much of anything, didn't really get a ton of playing time. He probably will get more seasoning in the 2029 season, but in a pinch, we may need to see what he can do with the senior team. Gil Ballara really established himself as a force on the team this year. He made 20 appearances in Série C, another 10 overall in the Sao Paulo State Championship. Added a couple of goals, picked up a couple of assists. We do need more of an offensive output if he is going to be a regular starter on that right-hand side. We gave him a ton of opportunities. Do we have a lot of options there? Sort of. Mateus Conceição, he played very, very well in limited time with us. Just 2 appearances, 2 starts, I should say, and an assist. We saw that in the second stage. Most of his time he spent in the youth system, but he also played very well there. 2 goals, 8 assists. Conceição may be getting that starting nod next year if we don't have any better options on the right-hand side. We try to make Gil Ballara work. Not sure if that's really the way to go. Igor. I'm a little disappointed with Igor, to be perfectly honest with you. I thought that he would get more playing time, and I thought he would play better when he did. He was excellent picking up a goal on a corner in the Sao Paulo State Championship. He just could not translate that into the regular season. Now, to be fair, he was behind Celio Pereira Silva, so his opportunities were going to be limited. We do need to see more out of Igor. I expected a lot from him. He is 6'5", for God's sake. Not really a spot for him on the back line because of Carlau and Canella. So I think his best opportunity at playing time will be at DM. If, for whatever reason, we tick off Victor Reis to the point where he doesn't stay with the club, that's potentially a spot for Celio Pereira Silva, who has just developed so absolutely beautifully. He made 21 starts in Série C, another 7 starts in the Sao Paulo State Championship. Just a pair of goals from that DM position. 4 assists, though. We would like to see him increase his offensive goal contribution output, but again, he's linking up play from pretty deep. He just was spectacular. I know his average ratings don't show it. He's been playing as a DM. We know Football Manager does not like defensive midfielders when it comes to the player ratings. I am very happy with Celio Pereira Silva, and he once again will be in our starting lineup in Serie B. Gui Miranda kind of found himself on the outside looking in for most of the season. In fact, all of it. Just 1 sub appearance in the Sao Paulo State Championship. Did play very well in our youth setup with 10 goals and 4 assists and 21 overall appearances. I just think he's behind Ballara. I think he's behind Conceição. And obviously, as a striker, he's behind Jay Carlos, Rodrigo Haruki, Gil Rosera, and Marcus Antonio. I think that Gui Miranda may be moving on. He's under contract for 1 more year at $280 a week. Not a ton of money in the grand scheme of things, but money we could save nonetheless. Vinny Oliveira, we've already talked about him. He's making $420 a week. He's going to want a raise. He's going to want a significant playing time increase as well, or at least a guarantee of that playing time. Has he earned it? Probably. 7 goals, 2 assists across all competitions. The average rating, again, not quite where we wanted it to be, but he massively was outperforming his XG. His XA, however, that was an underperformance. We need to get our wingers a little bit more involved in providing service to our strikers. Vinny Oliveira, hopefully we'll be able to get him under contract for another year. Otherwise, that will leave us with a definite gaping hole on our left wing now that Nicholas is gone. Did have a handful of players out on loan this year. Now, I did not make the mistake of only sending them for 6-month stints. I actually sent them for the full season. So 17-year-old left back Kleber Nascimento came into our youth intake in the 2027 season. Off at Aimore, just 7 appearances in the league, did not contribute offensively. In fact, didn't really contribute much at all. So even though his attributes are developing, he still is a little bit of a defensive liability. We need to work on that for next year. Midfielder João was at Odal Rio, 24 league appearances, picked up a couple of goals from the defensive midfield position, so I'm kind of excited about that. I like the 6.9 average rating as well. I think he played very well. He's got a decent tackle ratio. His passing could stand to be a little bit better, and he has been committing quite a few number of fouls. Also made 9 appearances in the Cup, picked up a goal and a pair of assists, even though that average rating is pretty darn tragic. He's seeing an uptick in attributes across the board. We're probably going to have him loaned out for another year in this coming year because I'm not 100% sure that he's going to be ready for Serie B, and obviously we've talked ad nauseum about the players ahead of him, but João looking like he could be a player in the future with a value of up to 1.1 million. That also shows me that we've got something special here. Fernando Jose hasn't quite developed the way we were hoping he might at Maranhão. He is, however, getting on the score sheet. 10 goals and a pair of assists in 24 league matches, another 2-1 in 9 cup appearances. So far, so good. We'll see what happens next year, whether we decide to keep him around or not. Look at that, 19 flair, decent amount of pace as well. As both a midfielder and as a striker, he could potentially be a backup to Gabriel Rosera in that false 9. Rodrigo Haruki, I don't know if we're going to keep him around much beyond his current contract. The low self-belief personality, though, does give me just that little bit of pause. Cleo Deville still has a lot of development work to do on the wing, and I'm not sure that he is ever going to see his full potential. 1 goal, 4 assists in 30 appearances, not too bad in a loan stint for this year at Monte Roraima. However, it's just looking like he's not really going much of anywhere. Maybe if we get him into a better situation for next year. He is still only 17 years old. Maybe the fickle personality is holding him back. I don't know. Very excited for the development of 17-year-old left winger Manuel Rodriguez. Look at these up arrows across the board. Didn't really put the numbers up at Primavera. We thought he might just 1 goal and 3 assists. But the average rating is telling me something. The fact that his value isn't that great, maybe telling me something else. It could be his fickle personality, but he seems to be developing now. Is he going to plateau? Is he going to hit an early ceiling? That is to be determined. Not sure I want to throw him into the fire this season, as he's only just turned 17 years old. We've done it with Celio Pereira Silva to a certain level of success. We've done it to Canella with a certain level of success. I think we can be a little bit more patient with Manuel Rodriguez. We do have a bit of a bloated squad, so there are players that we could play. I think maybe another loan spell out until he's 18, see if he continues to develop the same way. And if he does, he could certainly be part of our future and maybe the heir apparent to Vinny Oliveira. I almost forgot about Adriano Hakuda, and how I could have forgotten about him, I don't know. This was a player that didn't have a lot of upside potential, according to our coaching staff when he came in through our youth intake, but I said, I think we may have a player here. I'm still hoping that I am right. He spent 2027 out on loan with Nova Mutum. He spent last year with Aimore. We sent multiple players there. 33 starts, 2 goals and 7 assists. As a right back / center back, he very well may get more playing time. I think I'm going to keep him around for the next year to be in support of JP as a backup right back, that fairly determined personality. I tell you, I think that he is still going to be something special. We are going to find out. He's got 1 year left on his deal. I think I'm going to try to extend him. We'll see what happens. His form has not been fantastic. Let's be perfectly honest about that. However, I really do think Adriano Hakuda is still going to surprise at least somebody out there in the viewing public. We do also have Marcus Enrique, who did make a couple of appearances with the big club, a pair of substitute appearances later on in the season. He actually played decently well, not really expecting him to contribute offensively, but he did handle himself with aplomb. Only 1 foul as a fullback in Football Manager 26 in 2 appearances. That ain't too shabby. He's working on his tackling. He's working on his passing. His dribbling ain't great, but it's getting a little better. Again, that great, fairly determined personality. He's making a bit of money, but I think between him and Hakuda and JP, we're going to be fine. I think Lucas Diaz is done. So here's how I kind of see things for next year, and I know people feel certain ways about the squad planner. It's just a nice way to kind of put it out there without creating something myself. Andre is going to be our starting goalkeeper. Pedro Montavani backing him up. Jean Pantera will be in our youth system. We may loan him out as well, although as we discovered this year, having multiple options. If you notice, Saulo is not there. We did just try to sign him to a staff-only contract, and he was having none of it. He's still around for another year. We may have to get rid of him and move backwards before we can move forwards. Juan Richard, Gabriel Diaz are going to be splitting time as our left back. Canella and Carlau are definitely our top two choices at center back. Nathan Silva is still in that mix. Mateus Rocha has moved himself in that mix as well, as we just signed him to a new 3-year deal to extend him with the club. So we needed that additional depth. It was really just Carlau, and Nathan Silva. Last year, I'd like to have more options. JP is our top choice at right back. He's got Marcos Enrique, and Adriano Hakuda. Probably not the greatest amount of depth, and we'd like to see a little bit more development in that position. Pereira Silva has that number 6 spot on lock. Paulo Alexandre, we may move him up off of our youth team, get him some playing time up there. Obviously, Igor is there as well, who he's currently injured, which is why I kind of knocked him down a peg. Victor Reis is still in our midfield. Rodrigo Haruki could play there. Pereira Silva can play there. We definitely have options. Not as much depth as I would like, but options. I'm assuming Vinny Oliveira is going to be back as our left wing. Contract talks did break down, but hopefully in the next 2 months, there'll be plenty of time to bring him back on board. We've got Manuel Rodriguez, who is looking to step up. Obviously, Rodrigo Haruki, we could still play in that position. He just didn't play a ton this year. We just could not find a spot for him. Only 6 starts, just a singular assist. Haruki is definitely going to need to step up his game if he wants to stick around in the club. Gil Ballara and Mateus Conceição are going to fight it out for our starting right wing. JP can also play up there, but that means if we play JP as a right winger, we have to find somebody else to play right back, and right now he is our best option in that position. We've already talked about that. And our strikers are Gabriel Rosera and Jay Carlos. Caio Enrique is probably going to be elevated to the senior squad, and he's probably going to get himself quite a bit of time. Marcus Antonio also there. I'm not 100% sold on keeping him with the senior team this year. I think we may loan Marcus Antonio out, get him more playing time, and get him developing a little bit faster than he can just backing up Jay Carlos, but that is to be determined. A lot of things could happen between now and then. Our preseason begins late January, which gives me a little bit of pause because I'm pretty sure the Sao Paulo State Championship begins in the beginning of January. So we may be starting our Serie B campaign cold, just like we did this year, without a chance of scheduling any friendlies. But hey, Brazil is interesting. Football Manager outside of Europe is pretty darn interesting. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We kick off competition in the Sao Paulo State Championship, I think, coming up in the next episode. Maybe we'll highlight a few more of those matches, although I just want to make sure that we stay in the competition. How we do in it really isn't important to me. But Serie B in season number 4, that is what I'm looking forward to. That is what is coming up later on, either Friday or Monday, depending on how many matches I decide to show you in the Sao Paulo State Championship. Either way, I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Have yourself a great day. Take care. Bye-bye.